National Park Service, U.S. Department of the Interior. A white branch graphic floats against a light green background. Olmsted Center for Landscape Preservation. A footpath leads through a sun-dappled forest. Cultural landscape at Chatham Manor, Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania National Military Park.
The country around us here still looks pretty, although the lively, variegated landscape of spring has given place to the more softer and richer ones of summer. The rapid changes on the face of nature serve to remind us forcibly of the flight of time, and of the changes which a few fleeting months may make in the lives, thoughts, and prospects of mankind.
St. George Tucker Coulter, From Chatham in Courtship,
It's a good one.
to Judith Harrison Tomlin, 1829, a book of maps and photos.
So a cultural landscape report is the document that the National Park Service uses to manage its historic landscapes. And in a cultural landscape report, we document the history of the landscape, we document its existing condition, and then we compare those two pieces of information through a process of analysis and evaluation to make some recommendations about improvements to the landscape.
A park ranger.
I think oftentimes CLRs confirm or kind of formalize what the park already knows, the work of decades of our predecessors here. But this CLR for Chatham told us things we didn't know. Reading it was like, holy cow.
Chris Beacon, Cultural Landscape Report author.
Chatham is both the name of a house and also the name of the estate that house is on. It was built by a man named William Fitzhugh beginning in 1768.
Eric Mink, historian and cultural resource specialist.
All the layers of history are present from the 1700s up through the last private owners, the Pratts.
On a plaque, John Lee Pratt, 1879 to 1975.
200 years of history.
John Hennessy, chief historian
it is this
and chief of
place that is
interpretation.
built upon the labor of enslaved people, literally probably built by them, certainly sustained by them. The business here was an income-producing place, as all plantations in their original form were intended to be. It was built on the backs of enslaved people. And then during Civil War, of course, was disrupted, damaged. The place was transformed.
Kirsten Tolkien Spalding,
One of the things about national park units, with over 400 of them across the nation, each one has to be unique in and of itself. So when you're thinking about Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania National Military Park, everybody always thinks about the Civil War first. When you come to Chatham, you stand on the grounds, you see the gorgeous gardens that are here, overlooking the city of Fredericksburg, and you go, Civil War? And then you begin to learn a little bit more
Leslie
about the history of
Bird,
Chatham.
former landscape preservation
I think
specialist.
my favorite historical fact about Chatham is the story about Walt Whitman coming to Chatham looking for his brother during the Battle of Fredericksburg, or maybe it's just after the Battle of Fredericksburg. And he wrote of the carnage that he saw outside the window where the surgeries were being performed and the arms and legs that had been amputated. He said that they would fill up a horse cart, and that was right under the catalpa trees that are still out front and are very interesting in their own right to look at.
Elliot Folds, Cultural Landscape Report author.
The most significant changes that happened to the property were the complete devastation of the property during the Civil War, where trees were cut down, the grounds were just beaten into a muddy pulp by the boots and wheels and the animals belonging to the Union forces there. It became a big sprawling encampment of the Union forces, and many of the local people described how the Union occupation of the grounds had really spoiled what had been a very beautiful place.
Chris Beacon.
What's special about the Chatham landscape is its diversity. On the riverside of the house, you have these earthen terraces that are these enormous earth-moving projects that kind of descend in slopes down towards the river. And in the broader landscape, you have agricultural fields, which are beautiful in their own sense. You have this great natural topography to the site with ravines that flank either side of the house. And also the house itself, which basically sits on a plateau overlooking the Rappahannock River and the city of Fredericksburg below. And then on the land side of the house, at one time you had a U-shaped access drive that brought visitors up to the door to the house. And today you have a 1.2 acre walled garden, which was designed by historically one of the most important women garden designers in our country.
Volunteers pull weeds and water flowers in the garden. Kirsten
And through
Talkin
the work
Spalding.
of not really just the National Park Service, but through a myriad of groups, especially the Friends of Chatham and the volunteer gardeners that are here, we have an amazing spot that people can come to and see some of the grandeur of old and see themselves in the beauty that is today.
Nancy Fahey, Projects Chair, Friends of Chatham.
I care about Chatham because it truly is a reflection of the American experience. All of those layers of history really do matter. We can learn from the past, we can learn from the way people have treated this landscape, good and bad, and we can learn to take care of it and to preserve it and to make it better so that everybody can enjoy it.
Visitors stroll through the garden.
It's
Kirsten
unusual
Talkin
for anyone
Spalding.
not to find something here on the landscape, in the house, in the stories, in the history of this area that they can't relate to in some way, that they can't feel connected to. So I think I would challenge anyone to come to Chatham and find themselves here at Chatham Manor.
Credits appear over footage of snow-covered branches. Special thanks to Chris Began, Leslie Bird, Nancy Fahey, Elliot Folds, John Hennessy, Eric Mink, Kirsten Talkin Spalding. Visit the links in the description below to learn more. Major funding for this video was provided by the NPS National Center for Preservation Technology and Training.